Welcome to Mindful Mint. We're on a journey to understand the forces that drive our financial choices, from the simple everyday decisions to the complex financial strategies. In this series, we'll be peeling back the layers, going beyond just numbers and charts to the human mind, to the emotions, motivations, and behaviors that shape our financial lives. In this particular video, we'll be focusing on unraveling the psychology of saving. We'll dive into the common phenomenon of emotional spending, understand its impact, and discover ways to overcome it. So sit back, grab your notebook, and let's get started with our first topic, the impact of emotional spending. Have you ever wondered why we often buy things we don't really need, especially when we're feeling down? Imagine this. You've had a long, exhausting day at work, or perhaps an argument with a loved one. To lift your spirits, you indulge in a bit of retail therapy, buying items that you might not necessarily need. This phenomenon, dear listeners, is what we refer to as emotional spending. Emotional spending is a coping mechanism, a way for us to deal with our feelings, whether it's stress, anger, or even joy. It's a temporary fix, a band-aid on a wound that needs more than just a superficial solution. However, this act of spending to soothe our emotions often leads to financial instability. It's like a snowball rolling downhill, gaining momentum and size with each purchase, until it becomes an avalanche that threatens to bury us under a mountain of debt. So, emotional spending can have serious implications for our financial health, but what drives us to spend money in this way? To understand why we spend money when we're emotional, we need to journey into the human mind. Our emotions and our spending habits are closely woven, perhaps more intimately than you imagine. Ever had those days when a stressful day at work leads you to reach for your wallet, or a personal achievement is celebrated by splurging on a luxury item? This right here is emotional spending at play. Emotional spending, when kept within limits, doesn't pose an issue. Here's where the problem arises: when these purchases become a routine or a mechanism to deal with stress. It could then pave the way to financial anxiety and even debt. So, what goes on in our brains when we spend money emotionally? The neurotransmitter dopamine, often dubbed as the feel-good chemical, plays a crucial role. With every impulsive purchase we make, our brain releases dopamine, providing us with a short-lived high. No wonder retail therapy gives a satisfying feeling in that moment. However, like any other high, it's fleeting, and as it wears off, we may end up feeling guilty or anxious about our spending. Let's paint a clearer picture with Jane's story. Jane was grappling with a tough phase in her life. She was battling feelings of stress, sadness, and feeling swamped. To deal with these emotions, Jane began to buy items she didn't really need. Each purchase brought her a burst of happiness, a brief getaway from her problems. But this happiness was momentary. The stress of her financial situation soon compounded her existing issues, leading to a relentless cycle of emotional spending. Jane's story isn't a rare one. Many of us turn to shopping as a method to handle our emotions, stress, sadness, or even boredom. This is because our brains are hardwired to seek immediate gratification, a trait handed down from our ancestors who lived in times of scarcity. But in the current era of effortless credit and online shopping, this instinct can lead us into a financial quagmire. If left unchecked, emotional spending can spiral out of control swiftly, leading to financial burdens and even debt. Clearly, our emotions wield a strong influence on our spending habits. But how can we take control of this? Overcoming emotional spending is not as daunting as it might seem. It all starts with self-awareness. Yes, you heard it right. It starts with you. By recognizing that we sometimes spend money to fill emotional voids, we can begin to tackle this habit. It's not about cutting off spending entirely, but rather it's about making wise financial decisions that align with our goals. One of the most effective ways to control emotional spending is by creating a budget. This isn't just about adding up numbers, it's about understanding where your money is going and why. A budget is a tool that helps you make conscious decisions about spending rather than falling into mindless purchases. Next, track your spending habits. This isn't a punishment, think of it as a financial diary. It's a way to understand your triggers. Do you tend to spend when you're stressed, bored, or happy? By identifying these patterns, you can find healthier ways to cope with these emotions. Speaking of healthier ways, consider alternatives. Instead of spending money to relieve stress, how about a brisk walk or a good book? Instead of shopping to celebrate, why not cook a special meal at home? This shift can bring both emotional and financial rewards. Finally, remember to be patient with yourself. Change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, perseverance, and a whole lot of self-love. By understanding the psychology behind emotional spending and implementing these strategies, we can take control of our financial future. We've explored the psychology of emotional spending and how it can impact our personal finance. We've discussed its effect on our wallets, the psychological triggers that lead to such behaviors, and we've shared some strategies to help conquer these habits. It's important to remember that understanding and overcoming emotional spending is a journey. But remember, every journey begins with a single step. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more insightful content. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.